live? We are live. Hello, good evening, the internet, and all who stand in ye. I hope this is working fine. Give us a shout if, you know, you can see this, because that would be really good. But I don't want to tell you too much on conversations and that much anyway, because I want to get the show going. So, oh yeah, comments have just popped up. Awesome sauce. Right, so before the shenanigans truly kick off, quick word from our sponsor. 2 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, I represent the Coleman's Comics and Cataloguing Clear Out Corporation. Have you got too much stuff? Do you have an ex who's run off to Mexico and left you with a full collection of Strangers in Paradise? You don't want that anymore. Maybe your son's gone off to university and he said, I don't want it anymore, but can you get rid of it? How are you going to do that? You don't know what this stuff is. What is this murky business that you've got sitting around in your house? Give us a shout. We will turn your stuff into tenors. Alright? So don't hang about. Let us get your tat right out. Thank you very much. This has been a paid advertisement by Coleman's Catalogues. Coleman's Comics, Catalogues and Stuff Clear Out Bollocks. I've got to come up with a better name than that, haven't I? It's like falling down a flight of stairs. Right, anyway, back to the regularly scheduled show. I hope you've all got a brew or stuff. Right, so tonight's first reading is from the Knockabout Trial Special, which my copy, rather lovely. Well, it's got a receipt from someone, but I shouldn't show you that. It's also got like the original mailing list at the time. That's quite smooth and nice. So if you ever wanted to get more stuff from Knockabout in, God knows, whenever this was published, back in the past, then you could have done. I mean, they've got a website now and everything. You can get things like From Hell and that. So, yeah, you should do that. Hang on, I've got a notification. Right, so, before the reading thing opens, what I'll do is pop open another window. And that way, I can see what's going on. Right, there we go. Okay. So, this is from the Knockabout Special. The Knockabout Trial Special. And this story was published in 1982. And it was written, and I presume drawn, by Mike Matthews. And it's called The Homeless Starving Orphans vs. Bloodthirsty Crazed Killer Radioactive Zombies from Venus in a vicious handheld battle to the death for world supremacy. The orphans had been thrown out of yet another orphanage for refusing to participate in a hot car and blackmail vice ring. Bravely they pondered upon a bleak future, devoid of firm fatherly advice, porridge, spankings and comics. I'm cold and hungry. I fear we're all gonna die. Hush, hush, sweet Charlotte. I'm sure something will turn up. I paid me pants. The zombies, meanwhile, had landed but a short distance away, and hideously planned their ghastly scheme for imminent world domination. And let me tell you, not only were they mean mothers, they were uglier than ugly can get too. Earth, ha ha, quake in your boots, taste doom through accursed god poop, floating in the cesspitoon of the cosmos. Out, 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 my zombie army, today we conquer! Ha ha ha! Splog, a captain zombie, consulted Zog, the president zombie and invasion leader. What is your first command, old deadest boss zombie one? To begin the destruction of this planet, and also to build up our strength, we shall dine. He's not said that. We shall dine upon several prime orphans. Find them now! Luckily, I mean, unfortunately, the pathetic, raggedy-assed group of orphans lay nearby and were easily spotted by the marauding zombies. Perhaps we could eat some beetles. Nah, too crunchy. Look, orphans, juicy too. My friends, this horrific scene of gruesome carnage must not be hurled at your flimsy, innocent eyeballs. This is Dr. Dicky Nocky, a professor of corpophology and senior lecturer of the marriage rituals of the Arkansas dung beetle. Let me instead read from my latest book, Evolution, the Really True Story. As you know, man is descending from the mating of the vulture and motorcycle species and originated in a bucket of raspberry jelly on the womb. What? Are you calling me a liar? Do you seriously want to be kicked in the bollocks? Who the hairy Houdini do you think I am? Some wobbling charlatan? I'm a bleeding serious author, not some shitbag, snotty, bleeding, bogus, bilge-bailed bastards, and let me tell you this. Meanwhile, the orphans had polished off all the zombies but for Zog, who somehow escaped. Eventually, with the gold, platinum and silver teeth extracted from the zombies' skulls, the happy orphans opened up their own brothel, used car salesmen and meat market in Tijuana. The end. So yes, just to recap, that is from Knockabout Trial Special. I do not know if it is in print, but if you go to knockaboutcomics.com or look up Knockabout Comics, I would imagine that you will be able to discover it that way. This was first published in 1984, and it was part of the Right to Read Defence Fund, which was part of their Old Bailey legal costs. So yeah, there you go. Filthy Orphans. No, sadly, Matthew, that was not a Filthy Orphan story. I am good, but I am not so good that I named a band after a script I hadn't read that was published in 1982. So yeah, good evening, Toby. Good to see you. Hello. So yes, just before we get to the next bit, please take yourself in my fine array of decoratage. Okay, so next up. And I'm trying to find more of these, right? So I've got a fairly good whack of, God, I don't even know what the publisher's called. Comic Zone Productions, which looks so fly-by-night and ramshackle, and like they knew a dude who had a really lot of paper. So they just went, right, we will hire someone who can draw humans vaguely well. They did a whole line of these like murder comics. But they're just like what's the word I'm looking for? That whole unauthorized biography thing was really prevalent in comics in the 90s for some reason. I presume it's partly Todd Loren finding that whole, you know, hey look, we can do comics, and if we find the right way to not use the trademarks, we can probably get away with it. And I have a funny feeling serial killers, just not bothered whether they're being depicted in a particularly nice manner in comics. It's just not on the top of their priorities, I imagine. So yeah, there's a whole whack of these, and Todd Loren also did a whole bunch of them based on bands, and got into lots of trouble with the New Kids on the Block thing, most famously. Although Guns N' Roses weren't too happy with him either, for various reasons. So yes, I have the Sex Pistols one. If anybody has any of the others, like the Ice-T, Living Colour, Ramones, AC/DC, the Rolling Stones, like all of those, I'd love to do those. I would love that. So give me a shout if you got them. I will happily take them off your hands, because that's the kind of material I need. Also, the big books of is another thing on my shopping list. Big books of Vice, big books of midget criminals, big books of Mexican prostitutes. I don't know. There's dozens of them, and they're also really good for this format. So yes, right. Without further ado, this is Psycho Killers. You Axed for It. Issue 1. So we're going to start with the second story. Wow, these ads are really bad. Sorry, you can't see them. Okay, it's like the cheapest photocopying you could possibly find. Like, yeah, that'll do. Just run it. Just do a Xerox. Fuck it. Who cares? Who's going to see this? You know what I mean? Like, the sort of people who would buy this. Who are they? Hey, people are liking the video. Awesome socks. Thank you guys. I approve of this. I appreciate your liking. Right, so hang on, let's take a quick swig. Tonight's other sponsor is a Rockstar energy drink. I don't know who makes these, but Rockstar, if you're watching, send me cases. Send me cases of this stuff. It keeps me going, genuinely. Like, I would be knackered without this kind of thing. Right, here we go. Oh, hello. There's some more things going on. Am I being told off? How dare you mention murderers? Oh, it was somebody reacting to something I said on the 2000 AD Facebook group. Okay. So, this is the story of Gerald Eugene Stano. Okay. This would not benefit from me showing you the artwork. Just take my word on that, alright? Okay. Tracing paper, basically, is what I'm saying. Just like some bloke took a photograph and went, right, I could just trace that on. Oh, that's definitely how shadows work. Gerald, look, I mean, it's just really poor. Like, these people, their height and weight and, like, just basic ratio of just to each other. Like, one of these dudes, if one of them's 5 foot tall, the other one's 9 foot tall, right? And also, there's a bit here, and it's really getting on my nerves, right? Somehow, there's a... Look. Okay, bottom... hang on, I've got to try and angle this up. Right, this. No, not that, not him. The other one. Right, this judge's room, right? If these people are in silhouette, and there's no background, what's the light source? How are they silhouette? How? You just didn't think it through, did you? Look at this. Look, this is like the wild, lascivious prostitute that he's murdered. Like, look, she looks like a zombie. This isn't like a graphic telling of terrible events. This is like George Romero on a Friday night after you've done a few... Anyway. Wow. Okay, that would not... I've just found an even worse advert. Boy, time really doesn't heal all wounds, does it? Okay, well, do you know what? DM me if you want to know what the advert is, but really, like, I thought I couldn't be shocked. I'm wrong. This is really off angle, because I look like I've got a giant... Right, let's try that a bit. Sit there, right. Can you all hear me in the back? By the way, yeah, can you guys hear me alright? Can someone give me a comment saying your sound is fine? Because it might just be really amusing to watch me just talk without being able to hear it. Matthew, Toby, give me a shout here, tell me you can hear me. Okay, apparently you can't hear me. Okay, fine. Well, we'll carry on, and I'll hope that you guys just are taking the mic. By the way, yeah, I do have a Patreon, and one of the reasons is because I've got really knackered glasses. Like, it literally doesn't have right side because it broke off. I can't afford a new one. So yeah, if you are donating to my Patreon, that's one of the things you're potentially paying for. Buy this boy some decent glasses, because they are a state, but they've all I've got, right? Yeah, I know, I've got David Bowie earrings, because that's quite fashion, you need that in this life, but glasses, like... Gerald. I mean, look, I'm not going to let this go, right? Look, this is, and like they use a word for somebody's mental illness that you can't use today, and it's not even the worst thing in this comic, but like she basically looks like a cow with a face. It's really... I'm trying, like, you know, it's just all these things I held back on saying when I was looking at the comics, and I was like, this is rubbish. But luckily the words are basically legible. Gerald Eugene Stano was an affable, mild-mannered, short-order cook from Daytona Beach, Florida. He was also the author of what is probably the longest killing spree in US history. Stano confessed to killing 41 women across the East Coast over a period of more than 10 years. He was a man with a fear and hatred of women. His personal motto was, "I hate a bitchy chick." Gerald Eugene Stano was born in 1952 in New York. He was an abused infant. At 6 months he was taken away from his mother by authorities. He was considered to be so physically and emotionally neglected as to be unadoptable. A New Jersey foster couple who raised Stano won custody of him and one of his siblings. As a boy, he soon fell into a pattern of lying and stealing that became so bad, Stano was sent to military school for the remainder of his childhood. Once out of the military school, he went to live with his grandparents in Florida. Stano was a maladjusted teenager. He preferred the company of young children to others his own age, a typical sign of an unhealthy low self-esteem. Stano only felt comfortable around girls who were somehow deformed or crippled. One time he got into trouble by making a mentally retarded girl pregnant. As an adult, Stano worked a series of odd jobs, and he was eventually arrested for the first time for trying to cash a $60 forged check. Stano was convicted and sentenced to 3 months in jail, but the sentence was suspended after his fiancée pleaded with the court. Stano and his fiancée, who suffered from an eating disorder, were married in 1975. Stano's probation officer gave him glowing marks. His marriage soon ended. His wife complained of his itty-bitty penis. She was also annoyed by his habit of going out alone late at night. And returning home exhausted early in the morning, Stano would later confess to having murdered 5 women during his probation period. Over the following 5 years, Stano gathered a long police record for picking up hitchhiking prostitutes and beating them, but was never convicted. On February the 17th, 1980, the body of Mary Carol Maher was found at a dump area near Daytona Beach Airport. She was a 20-year-old swimming star who had been missing for over 2 weeks. She had been stabbed repeatedly, her body neatly arranged on her back, arms at her side and partially covered with branches. Her clothes were undisturbed. Mayer was an unlikely victim. Her mother told police that the athletic Mary had once beaten the hell out of 2 men who had tried to get fresh with her. The police had no leads in her murder. One evening towards the end of March of the same year, a prostitute got into the red AMC Gremlin of a man she had recognized as a previous customer, and soon the two of them began violently arguing. The woman would later tell police that she could not remember what had started the argument. She had been high on drugs at the time. The driver of the car attacked her with a knife, stabbing her several times, and one wound would require 27 stitches to close. The victim remembered a previous residence of her attacker by checking vehicle records. Police came up with Gerald Stano as a possible suspect. She identified Stano as her attacker from her photograph, and Stano was taken into custody. When Stano admitted to the attack, the questioning then turned to the murder of Mary Carol Mayer. And the testimony went as follows. I knew her. I gave her a lift. I tried to get in her pants, but she didn't want to. She could hit pretty hard, and I hit her back because I got pretty mad. You're damn right I did. I got so damn mad I stabbed her just as hard as I could because I saw red. Although Stano initially withdrew his original incriminating statement, he did eventually confess to the killing. Later he even took police to the exact spot where he'd left the body. On April the 15th, 1980, a skull was found in a private garden near Daytona Beach. In a nearby wooded area, police found human bones that had been scattered by animals. 4 branches had been cut off low by a nearby pine tree and used to hide the remains in a very similar method as to where Mary Carol Mayer's body was found. The remains were identified as those of Tony Van Hoddocks, a missing black prostitute. And Stano was questioned again. How often do you pick up black girls? I hate them bastards. But you picked her up. That's the only one I picked up. The detectives directly accused Stano of murdering Van Hoddocks. Initially, Stano would only admit to the 2 murders, but there were many unsolved murders of women in the surrounding area that seemingly bore Stanos' signature. When hotel maid Nancy Heard was last seen alive, she was hitchhiking in January 1976. Her body was found in Tucahoma State Park, not far from where he lived. The placement of her body had been carefully arranged. 18-year-old Ramona Neal from Georgia was found in the same park in May 1976, and her body had been partially covered by branches. In Bradford County, there was an unsolved murder with an unidentified girl's body found covered in tree branches, and in Titusville there was another case of a girl covered in tree branches who was last seen hitchhiking on the Atlantic Avenue in Daytona Beach. Eventually, Stano confessed to killing a total of 41 women in a spree that stretched across the East Coast. His memory for detail was remarkable, and Stano was able to lead police to the remains of several undiscovered bodies. Eventually, each of his victims were recovered, and Stano had a deep psychological hatred of women that burned within him since his early childhood. He'd been killing women since he was a teenager. His methods were varied. Stano's victims were chosen at random. He never once prepared for any of his crimes. Sometimes he would torture his victims and other times not, making his crimes nearly unrecognizable as the work of a serial killer. Tests showed Gerald Stano had a psychological file remarkably similar to Charles Manson and David Berkowitz, but he was still found mentally fit to stand trial. And on September the 2nd, 1981, he was sentenced to 3 consecutive 25-year terms for 7 of the murders, and a later trial changed that to a death sentence. And that is it for that. So, that has been the first test run of the Mondo Murder and More Monday Night Party. I shall hopefully be back next Monday with a bit more idea of what I'm doing, and hopefully the entire laptop will not break down on me, followed by my phone, followed by not being able to find the comics, followed by my downstairs neighbours having an argument. Hopefully you guys didn't pick up on that. So that is it for this week. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and yeah, see you in the funny books. Good night all. Tries to leave, can't find the fucking thing. There we go. Right, take 2. Good night. Please feel free to leave comments, notes, what I did wrong. I already know 15 things I did wrong, so yeah, I'll watch this back and go, what did you do that for? Anyway, take 2. See you in the funny pages. Have a nice cup of tea. Good night.